President Paul Kagame of Rwanda emphasized to African leaders that the continent holds all the essential resources needed to drive its own development without dependence on foreign aid. He made these remarks during the ongoing two-day Africa CEO Forum in Côte d'Ivoire, which brings together CEOs, investors, and policymakers from across the continent. Enora Gladys kicks us off tonight.
Today's forum focuses on redefining the relationship between governments and the private sector to foster sustainable development amid global changes such as rising challenges, reduced development aid, and high debt servicing costs. President Paul Kagame emphasized that Africa should ignore discouraging narratives and instead focus on harnessing available opportunities to build a resilient economy.
So we can't keep depending on what others are saying or doing about us. We need to be working with each other and other countries on the global stage that offer what we need, and we as well offer what they need. If you look at what we've been doing on our continent, much progress has been made. I think we can't say nothing has been done, generally. Whether it was to do with the reforms, and I think Africans have come together. They have defined things and speak with one voice. Increasingly, there is significant progress. But most of these developments that have been happening in the last decade, as I said, are reminders that there are things we need to do that we haven't done.
President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa stated that in order to achieve this, Africa must unite and ensure the private sector is made aware of the immense opportunities within the continent, especially by capitalizing on the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA.
The Africa Continental Free Trade Area is a fundamentally transformative mechanism that was adopted by the leaders of the continent. And we should recognize and applaud the fact that the political leaders under the aegis of the AU saw wisdom, and led by President Isufu, and President Kagame was leading the reform process, they saw wisdom in scaling the fortunes of Africa up and moving us just beyond just talking about politics and the unity of the continent, and wanting to put in place the real building blocks of what will support that unity and the progress on our continent.
On another note, President Kagame pointed out that there is inconsistency among some African leaders who fail to implement the agreements they make. Instead, they tend to look abroad, mistakenly believing that foreign nations will be the ones to develop Africa.
The cutting of budgets, cutting of aid, cutting of all kinds of things. And all of a sudden, we Africans, we wake up to this reality when it has been there so many times before, and we start scrambling. What do we do? No, what we need to do is what we should have done many years ago, and still we can do it. There is a mentality out there, it's sort of a mindset in our continent that somebody out there is going to foot the bill of our development. And that has undermined our effort to contribute as much as we can ourselves for our own development. So what we need to do, I mean, we need to do what we started doing. The frustration here for me is, we talked about how I championed the reform and worked with many other leaders on different subjects. But there is a sense of frustration that what we have agreed, even at a continental level, involving all leaders and how regional communities should work, with the AU at a continental level, is not implemented.
Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye highlighted that for sustainable development in Africa, the continent must embrace modern technology, citing Rwanda as an example.
We also have another country that is champion in infrastructure building, in the digital domain, and this country is Rwanda. So as you know, those both countries have succeeded in implementing what we are trying to do right now. If we take the case of Estonia, the digitalization is at 98%. So this is very high. So we can see that they really improved. And what we want to do is that for the future, Africa shouldn't miss that. Africa should be on the same stage as those two countries that I mentioned previously. We have to also to work on our digitalization to see how to have sovereignty and also how to be transparent, how to have a fast and quick development regarding that.
The 2025 Africa CEO Forum is currently underway in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. This premier event convenes over 2,000 CEOs, investors, and policymakers from more than 75 countries to explore transformative strategies for Africa's economic future. In Bangladesh, RwandaTV News.